Well, manufacturing beef prices in the US have risen, and it's driven by disruptions in the US cattle production system. We're joined now by AgriHQ Senior Sheep and Beef Analyst Mel Croad. Now, Mel, the US beef market is fundamentally a key market for New Zealand. Can you give us a bit of an update on what's happening there as the cattle ranchers in the States are managing their way through the disruptions via COVID?
Yeah, hi Sarah. Absolutely. Last month we saw processing plants, a lot of processing plants in the US actually having to close purely because of the fast spread of infection rates of COVID-19 through staff and workers there. Now, since then we've seen the adoption of, I guess, a bit like what we saw here in New Zealand, the physical distancing of staff at processing plants. So what that means now is the plants are now all open again, but of course throughput is a lot slower than pre-COVID-19 days. Best case, they're running at about 75% capacity, so a really good improvement on early May where capacity at these plants was more like 60%. So they're adding about another 100,000 head to weekly kill rates. But look, despite these efficiencies, it's going to take a very long time to work through the backlogs of cattle in the US. There's reports that there could be over 1 million cattle on feedlots that should have been processed over that April-May period. So it's going to be some time before we start to see these plants operating back at 100% efficiencies. And some are saying it will take months, if not towards the end of the year, which will just still have quite an impact on those cattle supplies and throughput.
So this price has really risen since record highs achieved in November for US's imported beef market. That's great for New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're seeing is that the US domestic beef prices have basically responded to the lower production in the last month or so. And the closure of the food service actually enabled some of those consumers to spend more at retail on beef. So we didn't really see a drop in demand as such in the US, but what we did see was that break in production and supply. So I guess those backlogs, because of the plant closures, have kind of created this false sense of a beef shortage in the US. So there's been this really big scramble to secure product at retail in the lead up to peak US beef demand. And I guess that's where the US imported beef prices have been thrown a bit of a lifeline because the US domestic prices have lifted so much that there's been quite a considerable discount imported has been trading at. So we've seen those imported beef prices really start to ramp up, and look, they've lifted by over 30 cents a pound in the last 3 weeks, which is good at our end, but yeah, we are just a little bit cautious at the speed at which these prices are lifting.
So what sort of flow-on effect is it happening here for our bull price, and are farmers sort of seeing that in their back pocket?
They're starting to. When we see in-market prices lift, we generally see a lift at the farm gate. It's not always immediate. Processors and exporters need to be confident that they've got a good supply of cattle in front of them. But to be fair, bull beef farmers across the country know this market inside and out. And they're really quick to question when things look to be a little out of whack. And I guess right now that's probably what they are seeing. On one hand, we've got a soaring market. On the other, we've got very low farm gate prices. And I guess meeting in the middle is this historically low procurement competition that we're seeing amongst processors. So yes, right now that lift in those imported beef prices has been so strong that when you convert it back to New Zealand dollar returns, they're up there with the record returns set last November when China and the US were slugging it out. So yeah, there is some concern at the farm gate that we haven't seen prices lift as fast as we should have, given the really strong upside in those imported beef prices. But I think that's got to be measured by the fact that when prices lift so fast, it also lifts the volatility. And we have seen some improvement in farm gate prices, particularly in the North Island, just with kill becoming a little bit more current. But look, we're navigating really unsettled times and have been for the last 8 weeks. So we've just got to be careful that demand we're currently seeing in the US market is sustainable.
So the months ahead, what does it look like in your crystal ball, Mel?
Yeah, like I said, we've got to make sure that demand is sustainable in the US. If it was being driven by an actual physical shortage of cattle and tighter production, then yes, that would absolutely be a tick for higher beef prices. But we've also got to be mindful that while China's in the wings in terms of beef demand for New Zealand, they're not paying the prices we're currently seeing in that US market. So I guess, if we were to look at the season from here on in, we would start to see domestic kill rates drop off as the last of those cull cows are offloaded. And with that peak kill period behind us, it would mean that our exposure to overseas markets is limited and reduced. And so, like I've said, the markets are mixed, but we've got to see more than just the US market showing any upside, particularly given the period we've just come through. And if we looked at pricing graphs, they would suggest upside through to spring. It's what every farmer is used to. But like I say, we've got to see more activity on our global markets than just the tight supply situation in the US to really encourage that stronger pricing position at the farm gate.
Mel, lastly, of course, I have to ask you about that moisture overnight, and I'm sure you'd like to see more of it. How was it at your place?
Yeah, look, Sarah, we were really fortunate. We tipped out 20 mils this morning out of the gauge. We haven't had that sort of rainfall in one hit for a number of months now. So excitement levels were fairly high, and we've had a little bit more rain through the day. But, yeah, unfortunately, it just keeps coming in. It's so isolated. I know farmers around us and further north towards Hastings haven't had anywhere near that amount. So, yeah, we're still all looking to the sky. We definitely need to see more rain to get those feed levels away in the pasture still growing before it gets too cold, that's for sure.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I always enjoy our monthly catch-ups. It's Mel Croad, the Senior Sheep and Beef Analyst for AgriHQ.
This is Sarah's Country.